You're probably wondering why you're watching this video right now. You look down at your clipboard and notice that there's no tickets. Do not worry, I'm here to save the day. Follow me. So, you probably look down at your clipboard, notice that there's no tickets. The most important part about everything moving forward is to not stress. You need to remember that it is not your fault, it's no one's fault. It's simply a bad luck of the draw. Your energy is what is going to be important. The guests in Waikiki, they are going to feed off of that. If they sense fear in you, they will fear the rest of the day. However, if you maintain a good level, good aura, they will also feed off of that energy as well. Now, when you look down at your clipboard, at this point in time, you have to start realizing what return times you're gonna probably go with. If it's a busy day later on, you might have to adjust them. It's okay to add an extra 15 minutes. It's better to be a little bit late and have them have the experience rather than cut the time short and not allow them to see what they could potentially see. All right. This right here, I'm not gonna lie to you, is going to be the hardest part of the day, and that is gonna be your first pickup. Now, when you get there and this door opens, you can't be sad. You can't be down. You need to hit them with a smile, hit them with a big aloha. Who's ready to go to Pearl Harbor? Now, at this point in time, they're gonna start coming up to you. They're gonna be rushing. You're gonna start calling out the names, but make sure you keep the bus blocked off. The reason why you do this is to let them know that you're the one who's running this ship. You don't want them just running up there. And that way, if you have any questions or you have to face any problems, you do it right here and you nip it in the butt before they make their way onto this bus. I'm not gonna lie to you. Sometimes you're gonna get guests that are a little bit more aggressive. They'll say things like, hey, what did we pay for? At that point in time, you just stop them, bring it down, like, whoa, listen. You and your ohana are gonna get an amazing ride on this bus. We are gonna cruise through the city. I'm gonna narrate, show you spots that you've never seen before in your life, give you the history so that way you can bring back a little piece of the island home with you. Now, as far as when we get to Pearl Harbor, I will make sure that you and your family get out on there to that memorial so that you can pay your respects. All you need to do is just grab a seat on this bus and I'll gladly explain when we get there how the day is going to go. The reason why it's so important to nip it in the bud if, let's say, you get an unruly customer is if they get on the bus up top and they start talking with the guests, they might start screaming, oh, I want a refund. Oh, what did I pay for? Their energy will then transfer on to the guests around them, sort of causing a minefield, which is why it's best to nip it in the bud, and which is why it's also important that you show up with a happy attitude, because happiness always wins. When faced with opposition, it's okay to calm, reassure, and sympathize with the guests. You have to let them know that you didn't want this situation for them either, but you also have to let them know that it is not your fault, nor the company's fault at all. If you sit there and then begin to direct the blame to maybe, let's say, some of the people who book our tours, you know what's gonna happen? In the future, they won't book with us. And if they don't book with us, what happens? Our buses will end up empty, which is why you have to carefully navigate the situation. Now, some drivers in the past, they would sit there and they would blame the Rangers. Why is this bad? Well, if you go up there and tell your guests that, oh, it's the Rangers' fault, when they get up to the Rangers and they say that, oh, our tour guide told us that it was your fault, you know what the Rangers are gonna do? They're gonna sit there and tell your guests that they actually paid for tickets and we didn't secure them. And they're gonna then flip it around on you and make it the bad guy, which is why you don't want to, how do you say this, pin the blame on others. It's best to just carefully navigate the situation. Just make sure that everybody remains calm, gets on the bus, and assure them that you will try your hardest to get them out on the memorial. All right, you did it. You made it. You narrated your ass off and you've just made it to the parking lot. Upon arrival and as you're coming in, you have to scan around the parking lot. Go ahead, give them a quick peek, Sam. Try and account for how many buses are in here. This is important because if Pearl Harbor is packed, sometimes getting out to the standby line will take a little bit of extra time. So if you see every row filled up, it's best to add an extra 15 minutes. It's always better to be a little bit late rather than stopping the guests from potentially seeing the Arizona Memorial. We made it. Guests are off of the bus. At this point in time, you cheer them up, make sure that they enjoyed the ride in. As you're beginning to break down the group, this is when you start talking to them. You say, all right, guys, as you know, we don't have tickets, but I told you all today is going to go smooth. What I want you all to do right now is pick one person in your group, the one person that you trust, to get down over there to the tablets, enter your information, and make sure that you all make it out to the Arizona Memorial. All right, did you all pick that person? Great. Now when we get up front, I'm gonna yell at you all single file line, so that way the Rangers know I run a tight ship. We're gonna make our way past the Rangers. I'm gonna wait at the globe and make sure the majority of the group makes their way down to the briefing section. But as I'm sitting in the globe, whichever leader you picked, what I want you to do is take a left-hand turn and head to the tablets. You'll then begin to enter in the information. It's gonna ask you for your name, your number, how many people are in your party. Once you are done typing in that information, you'll meet us in the courtyard and we'll then continue on with the briefing. Sound good? And we are back. So at this point in time, obviously you'll be with the other group, but I just wanted to give you a heads up of what it will look like for your guests. So they're gonna make their way, deviate away from the line, and they'll head over here to the Arizona Memorial standby sign up. Down over here, there are multiple tablets that they could use. When they get up to the tablets, they'll be given a few options. They're in a plethora of languages. Obviously, at the top is going to be one that says join the standby line. They'll click on it. So just to give you a little visual on how the tablets work, you're going to enter join the standby line. At this point in time, you're going to put your name in there, and we'll say today we are Mr. Smith. Happens to be with his wife, Mrs. Smith, so they're going to go ahead and enter their number. Believe it or not, they flew over the mountain from a place called Kailua. So they are going to enter their names in, and then they get their number. Now, once the number is on the tablet, you hit exit. They are fully entered into the system, and at that point in time, they'll end up getting a text message that looks something like this. Voila! Now that number is going to pop up on the TV over there, and that's actually for the folks that are international visitors. So if they don't have cell phone service, they will have to watch for the number. But as long as they are from the US or they have a working cell phone number, they will get a text message with that same number, and it's at that point in time that they're going to have to keep an eye on their phone. All right, so you've brought your group in. They have one person over there checking in at the tablet. At this point in time, you're going to give them a rundown on the grounds. You are going to point out the virtual reality in all 4 settings that they happen to have. You're going to point out the gift shop, let them know about the baggage policy. Right behind the ATM is going to be the narrated headsets. You're going to tell them about how it leads them all throughout the grounds, all of the memorials that they'll be able to happen to visit. Now, at the end of the walkway is going to be the museum. And then, too, middle of the building, you're going to point out the movie theater and how it plays on the 15 and the 45 of the hour. Now at this point in time, whoever you sent over there is going to begin to make their way back to the group. This is when you're going to delve into how the standby line works. You're going to check in with them, make sure that they put in the right number of people in their group. You're also going to remind them to stay attentive. Take the phone off of vibrate, make sure it's loud, make sure that they always have it in their hand and keep a check on it, because once their name gets called, they need to make their way down over there. You're going to let them know that when they do get called, they'll make their way down the end of the walkway. They'll walk past the Tree of Life by Alfred Priest. They'll be greeted by the ranger and then brought into the right side of the building. And at that point in time, they'll just have to wait a little bit before they are then loaded onto the ferry. Oh, one more thing. On days when you don't have tickets, try and refrain from TripAdvisor. Now, when they come back to the bus, you might be able to get one out of them, but it's best for you and the company to kind of just not talk about it on days when you don't have tickets. You don't want to catch a bad review. Nobody wants to catch a bad review. We like good ones over here. So refrain from talking about TripAdvisors on no ticket days. Mahalo. We're here. You made it. We're in the parking lot. The guests are coming back right now. Hopefully, they made it out to the Arizona Memorial. I'll be honest with you, it's summertime right now, 2025. Season is pretty slow. We've had guests that haven't had tickets, and they've made it out within 30 minutes of being here. So the odds are that your group made it out. Now, as they're making their way back to the bus, this is when you have to use your makas, your eyes, and feel them out. If they come back and they seem a little bit jovial, have a little smile to them, a little bit of pep in yourself, engage them. Ask them how long it took them to get out there. Ask how the process was. That way you know moving forward what you can expect. Let them onto the bus. Greet them, make sure you spread that aloha. Now, if you see folks coming back to the bus and they are disgruntled, simply ask them for their last name. Do not ask them how their day went. You could see it on their face. At this point in time, it is best to just get them on the bus, alleviate the situation, have them on there, and worry about the next group that is coming. Now, if they're super disgruntled and they start talking to you, saying this, that, I want a refund, you just simply tell them, hey, listen, I don't handle that side of things, but I'm gonna make sure I try my hardest to make sure that you get satisfied. Sometimes the company will give you trolley tickets, keep those on standby. Pull them out of your bag, give them to them. Act like you're doing something that you're not supposed to do. Give them a little bit of the pickle, and that can sometimes help ease the situation. Now, also at this point in time, if they look good, if they feel good, if everything was okay, they greet you with a little bit of aloha, it might be okay to ask to leave a review, but 9 times out of 10, you don't really want to get caught handing them out in front of somebody that's grumpy, so make sure you always read the crowd. And one last pointer before you set off on your journey. Regardless of how they come back to the bus, you're gonna get some people that are happy, you might get some people that are unhappy. You have to make sure that when you drive this bus back to Waikiki, you give them the performance of a lifetime. You narrate with every single ounce of gusto you have in your gut. You enunciate, you make sound effects. The reason why I say this is because you have about 27 minutes from here to the first drop-off to kind of change their perspective on the rest of the day. If you give a good enough performance, they'll forget about any mishaps that have happened, and they'll make sure that that jar right there fills up with a whole lot of green things, which is what we want.